right. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the #1 podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. I am your host, Christian Brindle. I'm joined with my co-host, Glenn Shelton, and we have a special guest in the house this morning.
Yes, we do.
Long time friend now, mentor to myself, tons of agents all over the country. Super influential, super accomplished, managing partner at Integrity Marketing Group, Miss Gaylan Hendricks, aka Queen of the Bundle. So, Gaylan, thank you for being here.
Guys?
So excited to have you
Welcome.
on. It's been too long. It's been too long since we've done anything together. So I appreciate you taking the time this morning.
We've been busy.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's always a good thing.
Yes.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find the stream, and Facebook won't show it to me. Shadow banning me from my own stream.
Christian struggles to navigate Facebook, you guys. As you can imagine, with someone of his status, doesn't have time for social media. Guys, I'm really excited. We were talking before we went live here about some of the different things that are going on kind of behind the scenes in the industry. And again, Miss Gaylan Hendricks, Medicare Mama, Queen of the Bundle. I can't think of anyone better to really get into some of the nitty gritty. I'm trying to think where to even start. Gaylan, what would you say? What do you think is the best place to start this conversation?
You know, I just think we're probably in the most important time of our lives as insurance agents. I mean, you know, there's so much going on. There was a lot around final rule last year. But I always tell agents, and I think this is one of the things that we've got to remember, is that we just will never be eliminated. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm not a New England Patriots fan, but I will just use the GOAT for this explanation because I haven't had a GOAT at the Dallas Cowboys in a while. So we'll use Tom Brady.
Oh, my shots fired. I love this.
But, you know, one of the things that I think is really important is knowing your place and knowing what you do and knowing how important it is. You know, you guys have heard me say this a lot, but doctors don't work for free and neither do we. And without what we do, doctors don't get paid. So yes, none of us have an MD that we can go out there and hang on our shingle. But what we do have is really important advice for people who are not just turning 65, for people who are 40 and 50. Because what we need to start doing as agents is cast a wider net. We need to get these clients before they turn 65. The agents that bitch, moan, and groan about the 1-800 numbers stealing their business, well, they're no different than those 1-800 hit wonders. You know, I always say 800 is very similar to the 80s. There was a lot of great music, but we can't tell you who the heck sang it because there was a lot of one-hit wonders. And when you're only selling the same thing as the 1-800 folks, you're no different. You are the same. So quit your bitching and moaning and groaning and start thinking about, how do I make such an impact in that person's life that I am their insurance advisor? You know, we got so caught up on not being able to use the word Medicare in our names. You know, why? Why do we get so upset about that? I mean, if you think about it, Medicare.gov, Medicare this, Medicare that, a lot of these clients can't get anybody to answer the phone. So it's really important, I think, to describe yourself as you are. You know, you are an insurance advisor. You pass the insurance exam. Trump just made a big announcement yesterday about all the navigator cuts. You know, what a lot of our agents don't understand is that the federal government works for us. We don't work for them. We employ them. We choose them. So it would be just like in your office, if you have 2 to 3 people, like your VAs, if they're not doing the job, what do? You say bye.
You get rid of
See you
them.
later. You get rid of them. And so the only way to do that with our federal government is term limits, for number one. But number two, be able to talk to them and tell them what you do and explain to them why it's important that they know who you are and the clients you have and the impact that you have on votes for that congressman or that senator, because you've got more clients that you talk to on a daily, weekly, semi-annual, whatever you want to call it, basis. And if you're not talking to your clients, you should be. Number two, you should be doing an interview with them every January. Guys, record month in December on cancer production with Aetna. $4 million of annualized premium in 1 month, 30 days. And agents saying, my clients don't want that. FMO saying, my agents don't want to write that. Well, somebody's writing it.
Okay, hang on. That's, first of all, that's an amazing story.
Yeah,
there's something, and I want to get deeper into that because we were just talking about cancer products on the podcast the other day, and I do think there is a lot of that sentiment going around of my clients don't want that. I don't want to sell that, which is absurd to me. But there was something else you said earlier that I really want to touch on too, is this idea that the agent will be eliminated. There is a palpable fear in the industry right now between the government, between AI, between the carriers. You could pick any lane you really want, and you could try to come up with a reason and say, well, the carriers don't want to pay me, or technology is going to eliminate me, or the government doesn't want to pay Medicare anymore, and I'm going to get cut out of all of this. What would you say? I call these agents Chicken Little agents, Gaylan. That's my name for them, Chicken Littles. And I don't mean that in a brash way or a mean way. It's just I really feel like it's very akin to the sky is falling. The sky is falling when in my opinion it's not falling. It is not falling. It's just this perception.
Pardon the dog barking. It's
you're
kind
good.
of goes along with the Chicken Little. Who let the dogs out? Well, I played the theme music on that for you guys. Well, I always love to tell agents, let's think about what AI really stands for. Is it artificial intelligence or is it actual intelligence? I want to believe that I have actual intelligence. AI is artificial intelligence, and it's only as strong as what we put in it, right? Sorry, I'm going to figure out what's going on with these dogs so I can focus.
No, you're good.
We are calling from home today because of our weather, so pardon that for a little bit. But, one of the biggest things about actual intelligence is that it is a forgotten art. We are so reliant on fear. And if you think about what the government actually is concerned about in final rule, it's the fear that they feel that agents are not taking care of clients, or they're selling them stuff they shouldn't be selling them, or they're not telling them everything they need to be telling them. And the biggest fear motivation came from final rule. So I always like to say, look, until we sit down and we talk to our government about, I am so sorry, my husband is supposed to be watching these dogs.
No, you're fine.
Because we're leaving for Lubbock in about an hour.
You're good.
But, one of the things when I read Final Rule, and I read it 3 times, it was 1,327 pages. One of the things that still surprises me is the number of agents and FMOs that have not read that rule from front to back. Number 2 is, what does it really say? It's talking about a lot of stuff that needs to be taken care of. So I've always said I agree with 85% of final rule. And we need to get rid of the bad actors. As far as the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I think
Yes.
we've got to remember we are the connector between our client and the government. And we've got to remember what the government is made up of. It's made up of people that we vote for, and then it's made up of appointees. It's surprising to me still how many people I talk to that haven't even read the Constitution. And it starts off with, if I'm correct, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. And so I always like to go back to use your wisdom. And when we're talking about artificial intelligence, I don't know if you guys get called by all these different Autobots, but when you listen to them, you can immediately tell they're a robot.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is we've got so many quick pitchers out there in our industry that they sound no different than the robotic characters that are calling people.
Sure.
So we've got to start educating our agents on how to go back in time. Like I literally told Dante Cantu 2 days ago, he and Charlie Tinsley came in to visit with me. And I said, I am telling you, 80% of the agents today would not have made it in the circumstances that the three of us started out in this industry in. Because we did not have anything that told us if clients had a bank draft. We didn't know their ages. We didn't know anything other than what the phone book showed us. Name. And a lot of times that was incorrect. And we knew the phone number was 90% correct because when we said, hey, Christian, and he said, yeah, we knew they matched.
The good indicator.
But that's all we knew. Yeah, that's all we knew. We did not know how old they were. A lot of us calling small businesses, we didn't know if they had group insurance or if they had private insurance. We had to work to establish trust. And when you think about it, what's happened in all of Final Rule and all of this Chicken Little attitude is it got so easy for agents to sell zero premium.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we got lumped in, a lot of us did, with those bad actors because
100%.
there was no difference. There was nothing different. I mean, I love Christian Brindle. I love John Jacob Hammersmith. But at the end of the day, when you're calling up and all you're enrolling that client in is zero premium, how are you any different? If you're not calling that client back in January.
Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yep.
His name is my name.
You got
too.
a voice. So if they eliminate Glenn, he's got a second calling. But, here's the thing is that when you call your clients back in January and you say, hey, Mr. Brindle, just calling to make sure you got your cards, want to make sure they're in a safe place. During COVID, we learned a lot of your adult children didn't know where they were. They didn't know how to get you admitted. So we want to make sure that they have a copy of your card. So we want you to go and get a copy of that real quick. We want you to screenshot that. And by the way, when you've got that card out, I want to make sure it reads correctly. So let's start with, what is your maximum out of pocket? Because I want to make sure it matches what I wrote you. Now, if you're calling somebody that you didn't get to in open enrollment, you can still use this same presentation. I want to make sure that you've got the right package of protection. So let's start with, what is your max out of pocket? On your card, it will show you that. Tell me what that says. Okay, let me indicate to you what that means. If you are part of that 87% that gets diagnosed with cancer, what cancer plan do you have in place? Do you have that card in your pocket? In your wallet? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me explain. That right there gets you walking into the door. You've just pivoted in a very valuable piece of information, because what you're doing is stopping that shock factor. When that
Yeah.
client, if he's a male, 1 out of 2 are going to be diagnosed, 1 out of 3, 87% over age 50. I know those numbers like I know my name is Gaylan. And then I simply say to them, my job is to make sure you're not shocked when you get that diagnosis, that you, or better yet, let me ask you one more question. Who helps you make your financial decisions? Why do you need to know that, Gaylan? Well, because if you get diagnosed with cancer, you're going to be calling that person, because that person is going to have to pay that $8,900 or that $4,500 or that $499 if you're in Watts. You know, it doesn't matter what the number is. It might as well be $1 million. Most of those people, especially on SNP plans, can't afford it. And a lot of agents go, well, if they can't afford it, they can't afford a cancer plan. No, you're exactly wrong there. You've never been more wrong, because if they can't afford a cancer plan, you enrolled them in the wrong plan. You should have talked to their adult children and see if they wanted to split a med sup premium, because then they know they're not out of a big pocket. They know exactly what that plan's going to pay. Even on a plan in, the only time they get a shock factor there is if they're in the state of Arizona, because the Mayo Clinic is not in that, take Medicare on assignment business. So what we have to do is we have to take a step back and say, maybe your adult children would rather pay $1 a day for that plan instead of pulling out their 401k. And before your audience comes attacking you or me saying, well, I do that. Well, first of all, they don't. Let's just go ahead and say they don't. Because if they did, and they called those clients back the next day, and they used the declination form that we have out on the Queen of the Bundle website. And by the way you get access to Queen of the Bundle materials is by having 2 agent numbers, one for Aetna, one for Manhattan. If you don't have an agent number for Aetna and Manhattan, you just don't get access, period. Because those are the 2 companies that have partnered with me, believe in my passion about never leaving these clients unprotected. And while there are a lot of great carriers out there that got these plans, those are my partners, and those are the ones that I want you to have an agent number before you get access to the materials that I've worked now over 30 something years on. I celebrate 40 years May 12th in this business.
Wow.
And it has been the absolute biggest blessing next to my kids, my grandkids, my husband, obviously my little fur daughters. But at the end of the day, it is just baloney for agents to tell me their clients don't want that. We have a cheat sheet out there when you're talking to a client that has an ACA plan, a cheat sheet for a client that has a Med Advantage, a cheat sheet for a client that has a Med Sup. And my number one response to the federal government when I had to just get their attention on this final rule was saying, listen up. I want to make sure that nobody goes through what my dad did or my mom did. My dad was diagnosed with cancer at age 52. My mom went into a horrible Medicaid assisting living facility. And thank the Lord, I had enough sisters and nieces that were able to see her every day. But if you want a real education, the federal government especially, walk into some of these Medicaid nursing homes. Biden, right before he left office, said he was going to shut down the nursing homes that didn't give clients 6 hours a day of one-on-one treatment. Well, he would be shutting all of them down. A lot of those seniors are thrown away. Their kids put them in and they're thrown away. I saw it every day. And so when you tell me that there's not a need for a short-term recovery care or the most amazing plan with Manhattan right now called Omniflex, I will tell you you're wrong. unless you're an agent making 6 or 7 figures, yeah, maybe you don't need a dental plan, but you have to start there. You have to put all these plans on yourself and your family, because when your client says, hey, Christian, what do you think about that dental plan you're trying to sell me? Well, I don't have it. I just think you need it.
Right.
You're not going to sell anybody.
You're not
Because
a
if
product
you
of the
don't
product.
believe in it, yeah. And here's the thing, guys. I know this is a news flash for a lot of you. Yeah, I'm sassy. That's what makes me, the one everybody wants on these podcasts, because I kind of tell you like it is. But, until you've got a tooth rotting out of your mouth and you don't have any money in the bank, and you're going down to your dentist and he says, by the way, we have Care Credit. Sign up today. We're going to charge you 18% interest.
Yep.
That's what they're going to do. Why aren't you networking with those same dentists and putting the Manhattan Life brochure in that window instead? My Lord, it is guaranteed freaking issue. And when you talk to your clients and you ask them who helps make their financial decisions, and they say, why? You say, because when I get done doing business with you today, I'm going to leave a thank you letter, not only for you, but for them as well, so that you can show them that this $30 was for your cancer plan. This $30 was for your life insurance. This $30 was for your dental, vision, and hearing. And for goodness sakes, don't be that lazy agent that loads up one plan. Because what happens is you have children come in and go, Mom, you told me you were on 0 premium. What's this 120 over here? You're not paying 0, you're paying 120. We're canceling that. Well, what did they just do? They canceled their cancer plan. Now, it's not a 1 out of 1 chance you're going to die, but it's an 87% chance. There's a 13% variable. When you write 4 separate plans with 4 separate bank drafts and they've got to make a budget cut, what's the first plan you're going to cut for that client? The dental, vision, and hearing. Why? Because it's guaranteed issue. You can always go back and get it. But when you're discussing with these kiddos why you would cancel that first, they all of a sudden say, well, maybe I can make that premium. After I had this conversation with Danielle Kunkel, she went out and wrote her parents long-term care. She was like, I can pay for that. A lot of people don't realize that they can buy those plans on their parents. And on the D-SNPs, you guys, all they've got to do on that Medicaid pending application is justify where they spent the money. Now, they can't go down to Chickapoo Casino or go to Del Frisco's with their kiddos, but they can use that money. And when you leave it off, they're going to accuse you of fraud. And trust me, I left off like $2.22 my mom got on a whole life policy. They sent me a letter like I was a heathen. But once they found out it was like $2.22, they were like, no problem, just put that on the application. And if you've not pulled up a Medicaid application, you should. You should know exactly what your clients are going through every year and what they're answering. That's what makes you so important in what you do. And never forget that. You are right there next to their life-saving doctor. You're right there.
Yeah.
So Gaylan, I wanna ask some questions about the integrity lawsuit, because there's so much I want to get into with that as much as we can. I know there's only so much we can talk about with it, but before we do that, I wanted to quickly
first of all, let's correct what you just said. It's not an integrity lawsuit.
Fair enough.
It is not an integrity lawsuit. It is a SSB along with ABC, Americans for Beneficiary Choice lawsuit. And Judge O'Connor in the Tarrant County Court joined those two together. And I'm very proud of that. I have experience in suing the federal government. I don't want that experience. I don't want that attached to my name. But at the same time, what I have found out about the federal government, 98% of them are nice guys and gals, but they just don't understand what we do. And sometimes you have to go to this measure to be able to have a conversation. If we would have not filed the action when we did, we would not have been able to have a conversation. So fortunately, Judge O'Connor granted us the stay and said, hey, we're going to park this for a little bit. The only thing that he didn't give us was sharing client data, but none of us were jumping up and down about that anyway, because we don't want our clients called 50 times a day.
Right.
But in order to file the motion, we had to include it. But it's really about understanding that this was not about Gaylan doesn't like government, because I am 100% about this country. Y'all know this. My husband's a Vietnam vet. I'm very proud of this country. I'm very proud of the men and women that serve our country, whether they're on the front line or whether they're a first responder or whether they're a senator or Democrat, or they're a Republican or a congressman. They're all serving our country. But sometimes you have to say, whoa, Nelly, we need to have a conversation. And that's what we did.
Got it. So I have some follow-up questions to that, but before we get into that, I want to make sure that we get in the sponsor for the episode today. 7-figure playbook event, guys. So next week, all three of us will be in Nashville, Tennessee. The event is 100% sold out. It's a smaller event, roughly around 100 people. But there is a free virtual option available that we've opened up to everyone. So make sure you get on the free virtual for the 7-figure playbook event. You can watch the content from the comfort of your home. And it's going to be a really good event. We have a really good panel of speakers, of course, all three of us included, but several others as well that I'm super excited to be able to share the stage with and bring a lot of value. So I just wanted to quickly kind of take some time and mention that.
I'll drop a link to it in the comments below, you guys. So if you're watching this on the 7-figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, you can click, just register for the live event so you don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. Really, really awesome. I'm excited.
Me too.
So circling back to the lawsuit, Gaylan. So do you feel like, because you mentioned final rule earlier, right? What do you feel like are the biggest misconceptions about final rule that agents have? Because I'm sure there's plenty, right? As you said, very few people probably read the entire document from cover to cover. What are the biggest misconceptions about it, like that agents just don't fully understand? I'm sure you see all the chatter and posts about it in different communities and things like that. What is your thoughts on that? This episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by Everything Senior Insurance. Guys, if you're looking for an FMO in 2025 to be a partner with you and really support the overall growth of your business, Everything Senior Insurance is the one-stop shop to allow you to get plugged in with great resources. Whether it's ACA contracts you're looking for, whether it's Medicare contracts you're looking for, whether it's final expense and life contracts that you're looking for, Everything Senior Insurance has got you covered. We provide a free CRM in 7-figure CRM to all of our agents that meet the proper requirements on their contracting and have enough contracts with us. We provide discounted leads with Lead Heroes, discounted virtual assistants with Hire Heroes, and we provide just year-round support to just be there and help you out in your business, as well as fantastic training. Glenn, what do people need to know about Everything Senior Insurance, the FMO?
At Everything Senior Insurance, we've really combined all of our resources to create an FMO that can be a true one-stop shop for a senior insurance agent. Most FMOs have only maybe one resource or even no resources beyond offering that contract. We want to provide value to you as an agent to help you grow your book of business. Or if you want to create an agency, we want to help you grow your agency. And there's so many resources that we have put together to really help you grow your business. So if you are looking for a true partnership, someone that will invest in your business, please reach out to Everything Senior Insurance. We would love to help you grow.
Thanks for listening to this message. And now back to the show.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that's why y'all don't see me commenting as much on social media posts like I once was, because there's so many agents and other people that think that they know everything. And when they're corrected, they take great offense to it. So it's just better sometimes to let them just go off into their la la land thinking they know what they're talking about. But the truth of the matter is, you only know what you read. And what I will say about Final Rule is I think the biggest misconception there is what third party marketing groups are. And that
TPMOs.
that in itself is, and the reason I use third party marketing group instead of what they use is because they are two very, very different things. Number one, anybody that earned an override off of an agent giving any support whatsoever is in that group. And there are a lot of people that didn't think they were in that group. And so when they were writing their letters, they were saying, well, I'm not an FMO. I'm exempt from that. Well, no, you're not. If you earn an override, you were included in that group. The other thing is the biggest misconception is the agent thought that they were immediately getting a raise. And while it was worded as such, there was a lot of money being taken away from those agents because they didn't read on past, like to the last page, as a lot of people do. And I'm type A and I'm guilty of this. I get accused of it all the time by my team as I read the first line of an email. And if it's something I love, I'll keep reading a little bit more. But, I hardly ever get to the last word of the email if it's boring, right?
Right.
Well, a lot of agents thought Final Rule was boring, and they missed a lot. When it concerns my income or concerns my clients or their welfare, and this rule included both, I'm going to be right in the middle of it. What a lot of people didn't realize about why I wanted to take action in that lawsuit is based on SSB's business unit, less than 2% of our overall profitability had to do with Med Advantage income. So it was not a money thing for me. It was clients need choice. And I'm going to fight for clients' choice until the day I die. So that was the biggest misconception about that. Agents didn't realize that this wasn't just about income.
Right.
This was about taking away a client's choice in what they want for their health insurance. And I'm a big believer, especially getting ready to turn 62 in August, 3 years away from Medicare, what I like to call freedom. Those are the golden years for these clients. And they've worked their tails off to be able to have the best health care in the world. And that was getting ready to be taken from them. And the second part that was getting ready to be taken away from them was the most important part of the equation. And that was a trusted advisor. And I wanted to fight to keep the trusted advisor in that equation. When clients call CMS or HHS or Medicaid.gov or Medicare.gov or healthcare.gov, whatever thing you want to put on it, they just want an answer to their question. And we all know they very rarely get that. The other misconception in Final Rule was what all we do for our clients. There are so many of our clients that don't even know how to file for Part B. We do that every day and we're not paid for that. We get clients on food stamps. We're not paid for that. We get clients' children involved so they know exactly what's going on. We don't get paid for that. When clients file claims and hospitals and doctors deny it, we don't get paid for that, but we're there. And the navigators and the people at Medicare.gov and Medicaid.gov, HHS, whoever you want to talk about, they don't know how to call the carrier and get the claim worked out for the client. So all of that was talked about in final rule. And all you heard in the chatter was, I'm going to lose my marketing dollars. Well, that's the very thing that the government's mad at you about. They think all you care about is these marketing dollars.
The money.
That you don't care about the welfare of the client. Well, those marketing dollars help offset some of the things that we do that there's no compensation for. And that was set originally when all of this was set up, that CMS was going to give that to the carrier. The carrier was going to pass that down. The problem is there were some bad actors that were using those marketing dollars inappropriately.
It's exactly what I was about to ask you. Because we've talked about this before too, and there's a few individuals that come to mind. Obviously, I won't say any names, but I'm curious to know.
But Gaylan might.
No,
Gaylan might. Hey, that's up to Gaylan. What Gaylan does on the pod is up to her. But
I think I mean, it's no secret now. Like there was groups that were taking large amounts of marketing funds from carriers and almost using it as like an incentive to move contracts over to groups. Like, and that is straight up.
Fortunately, none of those were my partners. I'll just clarify that here. But I think
they were publicly bragging about it too.
Yeah,
they were
not just abuse; they were publicly bragging about doing it too, which was very distasteful.
Well, and there were agents that took those dollars that were publicly bragging about it, and riding around in airplanes and all that stuff. And here's the thing. I don't judge anybody that I don't know personally what's going on in their life, and that we have some friendship or we are good friends, because that does nothing but get you in trouble. And the truth of the matter is, I don't do that because I don't want that done to me. So it's a very easy way to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most important things that I think agents need to do is to pick up the phone, call their senators, call their congressmen, and say, I just want you to talk to Mrs. Jones. Here's her phone number. She will tell you what I've done for her. And I'm not doing this, Mr. Congressman or Mr. Senator or Mr. Democrat or Miss Republican, to get kudos. I'm doing this because you all need to know what is really going on, so that when you are voting, you know how to vote. You know what's going on. And, I've had lots of conversations with different senators and congressmen, and I will tell you, I'll be at NABIP next week. One of my biggest beefs with a lot of this industry is they will sit there, bitch, moan, groan, gritch, gripe, complain on all these social media platforms, and I never see them at these events. And I'm like, instead of spending your money to go in the greatest world conference, be out in front of these people that are making decisions. And one of the things that happened last year is I had an agent that's new in the business, doesn't work with me, but stood up in front of CMS and uttered the words, I'm just a broker. And I had already promised myself I was going to be quiet. I was going to listen. I was going to learn. I was going to take notes, go back and talk to senators and congressmen. But when I heard her say, I'm just a broker, and CMS had just uttered the words that they get no complaints on the navigators or anybody at CMS, I beeline for the microphone. And I simply made the comment, one of the reasons you don't get complaints at CMS is because they have to hold forever to be able to talk to anybody. And by the time they've already called an agent and said, hey, I need help. You're getting complaints on some of these bad actors, and you should, But you've also set up this tone that agents should narc on each other. And that's not
Yes.
good for our
Mhm.
industry, and it's not
No,
good for our government.
it's
It's not
not.
good
Yeah.
for our clients. It's not good for
Yep.
anybody. And then when I hear this agent who's literally trying her best to just do what's right for her clients say she's just a broker after CMS called her that, I stood up there and I said, first of all, I never want to hear that come out of your mouth. You're not just a broker. You are an important connector between the very constituents that our senators and congressmen swear to fight for and the carrier that takes care of them in some of the absolute worst times of their lives. There's nothing worse than hearing your mom or dad tell you, I've got cancer. I don't know how long I'm going to live, but there's this life-saving thing I can do, but I don't have the money. Kids are going to sell their homes. They're going to mortgage the bank. They're going to sell out their 401ks to pay that move. They're going to do whatever they got to do. When your mom walks in that Medicaid place, and I've got a check that I'm going to start bringing on the road with me that I got from the Medicaid facility. It's around $17,000 that they told me to go cash. I never paid $17,000. So why would I get a $17,000 check? But they can't have that money in their bank account or Medicaid will audit them. I call
Right.
us Medicaid what to do, just void the check. The nursing home tells me you can't void the check. We need that money out of our account. Do you know how many clients have probably their kids or them have gotten those checks and have cashed them because that's what they were told to do?
Right.
I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it just needs to be done the right way. I don't think there's anybody that wakes up in the morning that's a good human being that says, I hate the federal government. I don't hate the federal government. I just want them to do things the right way, an
Right.
organized way, the way we run our businesses. I want them to
Right.
call me and ask me questions. And matter of fact, Senator Wyden and I could probably have one of the best conversations in the world if he would just return my call. Because he and I agree on 85% of what he thinks. Because he went through something very similar with his parents that I went through with mine. I just
Yeah.
want him to understand what we do as agents. I want him to understand how good and how great 90% of our industry is. You know, it's just like the federal government. You're going to have 90% good guys and 10% bad guys. In school, you're going to have 90% of the kids that never touch a drug, and you're going to have 10% that do. It's just called life. This shouldn't be this difficult. And that's all I try to get the federal government to do. And fortunately, in the first lawsuit I was in, I was very blessed. We drew a fantastic judge, a judge that actually picked up the phone, told the lawyers in the courtroom, I'm going to call Gaylan Hendricks. She needs to dumb this down for me because you guys are making it way too complicated. And I remember him starting out the conversation with, hey, sister, I need to understand what these senior HI plans are. Well, those aren't the same plans we're talking about, Your Honor. There's a senior HI, there's an Obamacare alternative plan. You know, on day one, those clients get $9,000. And I remember him going, what? These guys are telling me they only get $150 copays.
Yeah.
Those are senior HI plans. Those are not the Obamacare alternatives we're talking to you about. And you can sell these, Your Honor, or enroll people in these for ACA supplement or for standalone. But the great thing about them is they're guaranteed renewable. And he goes, well, tell me what short-term medical is that's different than these. And I said, well, short-term medical is not guaranteed renewable. Hence the term short-term. Short-term doesn't mean for as long as you pay a premium.
Right.
But both sides Even our lawyers and the government's lawyers did not understand what these policies did. And they didn't understand that they're hospital indemnity cash plan filings. So the judge got it. Judge O'Connor gets it. And don't forget, y'all, these are federal employees too. I mean, they sit in the federal court of law. And to pick up a phone on a Saturday and say, hey, Gaylan, I need to understand this. Dan and I were buying his shoes for an insurance company trip. I'll never forget it. We were in Dillard's. And the guy was just so nice and kind and just wanting to understand. And he goes, so let me get this right. If a client has an ACA plan and they have your plan, the ACA plan's going to pay, and you're going to give them $9,000. Yes, Your Honor. We have to. It's what the plan says.
Right.
And
Gaylan,
he said,
Gaylan,
okay,
let me
tell me that? I mean, that's such greatness.
That is greatness. And I think that's exceptional from what we see a lot of times, because a lot of times they don't even want to know more information. And what you said earlier about the big takeaway from Final Rule was that they didn't understand the industry. I heard that from everyone all over, top to bottom. The Final Rule coming out, it was very clear. They didn't know what a TPMO should be or how it should be defined or what an FMO's role is or what an agent's role is. There was so much confusion, so much contradiction. So where it's at right now, the stay got placed. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you since you're so in the know on this. What do you think will happen with the Final Rule? Do you think it's going to be completely thrown out? Do you think part of it will end up getting issued? How do you feel the new administration will maybe play into this? Is there a timeline? Do you think we'll know soon? Next week, next month, next quarter? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's public knowledge that Judge O'Connor is going to rule in March.
March. Okay. I didn't know that.
Further, I believe that's the date. I'm hopeful. I think the fact that there's a lot of senators and congressmen, I'm of the opinion, I don't want to know who's Democrat and Republican. I just want to know what you stand for, Yep. I'm very hopeful. I think that we've got your little friend in the background back there. He is definitely a proponent of MedAdvantage. So I think that's going to be of help. I think having RFK as the HHS secretary is going to be helpful. I think they're both fair-minded people. I think they're both very intelligent people. One has been public service his whole life. One has been in the private sector his whole life. So I think having two people that are going to work closely together from two separate worlds coming together is a very good thing for our country. I think the healthiness of our world is in good hands right now. As a matter of fact, I think it's in great hands. But I don't know what's going to happen. I tell my employees all the time, if you don't know, it's okay to say IDK. And I don't know, but I am incredibly hopeful. I think that we've gotten the attention of the federal government that we agree and we want to work this out amicably. This is not a war. This is not a fight. This is basically a raising of the hand saying, let's stop for a minute. It's kind of like the infamous timeout. When you're having a business disagreement and you say, okay, we've all come to an impasse. We don't agree. But we're going to have to learn to understand, to disagree and find out what we do agree on and go forward. And I am always going to be available for any senator, any congressman, the president of the United States, HHS secretary, CMS secretary if they want my opinion. I've been very vocal about that all over social media. I would love to have a conversation. I would love to have coffee or lunch with Senator Wyden anytime he asks for it. Because I think, based on what he's written about his parents, he's a very concerned son. And that's what I want for a son. That's what I was as a daughter. And I think him setting that in stone is what we need as a country. When you look at the countries in Asia, and I just got back from there, it was a big bucket list last year. Man, you talk about respecting your elders. Those people respect their elders, and we need to learn that lesson. And if anything comes out of this lawsuit that we as an industry want to show the respect for the elders in this country, then it's a victory. And that's what I want all government hearing. I get a lot of people go, well, that sounds really good. And that sounds really cliche. And that sounds really goody. Well, I don't really care what those people think. That's how I believe. And that's the way I'm going to live out the rest of my life. I have set that example for my kids, my grandkids, my employees, the people I mentor every day. We're going to fight for our industry, but what we're really fighting for is the people that have given us the great life that we have in the United States of America. And that's truly what makes America great. I mean, is putting those people first. And, I've always said there's only 3 things I vote on. And, a lot of people, get all wrapped up in all this personal social causes. I believe in taxes should be fair for everybody. I believe our borders should be protected because of the men and women that fight for our freedoms every day. And because of my faith, I fight for Israel. And that's just who I am. And it works for some, it doesn't work for all, but that's the great thing about living in America. I still have freedom of speech. I still get to state that, and I still get to vote that way. And I will fight until I leave this planet. And I hope the people I leave behind do the same.
Well, I love it. I want to make sure that we have time for final thoughts. I know we're getting close to top of the hour, and we want to respect your time. I know that, of course, you're an incredibly busy person. We could talk to you for another hour, of course, easily.
Of course.
But we'll just do it again someday.
That's
next
right.
week. Next week,
yeah. Next week we will.
Next week. Forgot about next week.
Yeah. So, Glenn, why don't we start with you? Final thoughts on today's episode 58.
Man, so much great stuff to unpack here. I really, if there was one thing that I would say could be a great takeaway for an agent watching or listening this, Gaylan's approach when she was talking about cancer insurance, I thought was so awesome. And I was thinking how you could really use that same type of approach with other lines of insurance too, like final expense. Basically having that approach like, well, do you have it? And if you don't, why not? Because you need it. And it is such a direct approach, and you're kind of just like hurdling those barriers instead of that. We talked about these agents who aren't offering it, or they're offering it incorrectly, right? Where they're order takers, and maybe they'll say something like, well, I also do cancer insurance. Do you want cancer insurance? It's like, that's so easy to say no, or say, I don't need that, or let's not talk about that. So I think there's so much to be said about your approach when you're talking about some of these other lines of insurance. So, huge shout out for Queen of the Bundle. I've always been a huge fan of cross-selling. We just did a podcast last week. We spent an hour talking about cross-selling. I would love to have you on again here soon. And maybe we spend the entire time just talking about cross-selling, because I think it is so important for the beneficiaries, for the agents, for really the entire industry. I think the more cross-selling that happens, it benefits all of us. So yeah, I'm excited to see you next week, Gaylan. It's always a great time. I love watching you speak. So much value, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
100%.
My pleasure.
Gaylan, any final thoughts on this episode? We always go around, give almost like a parting word, if you will. when we close the
Well,
shows out. Any
Brian
final thoughts?
Adams, who's the CEO, Brian Adams, who's the CEO of Integrity, yesterday did a very good talk of just losing his father. And he and I communicated a lot during that time because Brian has been a personal friend of mine for a long time. And having lost both my parents, it's hard, when you lose a parent. And I know that was very hard on him. But just talking about what he went through, and he's been in final expense life insurance his entire career. And he said he still didn't expect what was going to come at him when it did. And I will just tell agents, if you've not looked at Legacy Safeguard through one of the integrity partnerships you have, you should. It's totally out there for your clients, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Plus, it helps you cross sell. Instead of saying, do you have or do you want? The better question is, why do you not have this? And who hasn't shown you this before? If they truly care about you, they should have shown you this plan. And I want to be that person for you. So I would throw that into your presentation. I think one of the things that I would throw in as my final thought is we are always going to be needed. And so agents, quit worrying about your need. The more you cross sell, the more you're going to be valid in all of these homes and businesses. So, just know your value and know you're valuable. I think that is the biggest thing that causes problems in communication is you don't know your value proposition. So when you sit down and you're talking to somebody and you don't have that conviction, they don't know what you do until you tell them. So I would just throw that negativity out the window and really focus on what you do for your clients and cast a wider net. Start writing these clients at age 45, 50. The premiums on these plans are so incredibly cheap. And you can show them why you want to write them at this age so that they don't have to worry. So to give you an example, I wrote my cancer, heart attack, and stroke plans before I turned 30. I've never had a rate increase. And there's a reason for that, but we're not going to tell you what that is because you got to go sign up for the virtual next week to hear me drop that little nugget. And then we'll let you know next week. But tune in. I love visiting with agents. I always kid. I probably talk to more on the frontline agents than anybody in the country. And I want to always be there for all of you. So always reach out if you've got a question. Follow us on Queen of the Bundle. My personal Facebook page, I have to unfriend people every day to fit some of you in. So that's just a revolving circle. So just go follow me. It makes it easier. But thanks for having me on, guys. I love talking about this stuff. It's important for our clients, and it's also important for our agents.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. Guys, my final thoughts on this episode here today was, I don't want to just reiterate everything that Glenn and Gaylan already said. So, something that I am a big believer in that was talked about, is in addition to everything that was mentioned so far, is like, it is so important to be a product of the product, right? Like I've had myself on an Aetna cancer plan for myself, my daughter, my wife for 4 or 5 years now. And so just like Gaylan just said, my premium's never gone up. It's a set premium, that kind of thing. And it makes it easier for you to discuss it with your client because you know it intimately because you're a customer at that point. You can, and social proof, right? You can be like, I have this plan on myself. That's a powerful thing to say in anything that you're offering to a client. Dental plans, all that stuff. I have so much insurance on myself proudly. And that's a great way to really.
I'm overinsured. I'm proudly 100%
overinsured.
And therefore overpaid.
That's right. That's right.
No, that's when y'all are supposed to say, no, I earned every dime of that.
Yes, 100%. 100%. For anybody that ends up watching, either you watch live or you watch the replay on the various platforms the show will be on. If you're going to be in Tennessee next week, we're excited to see you. I'm excited to spend some time with you. I believe the RSVPs have gone out for the party buses, so make sure to RSVP for those. It's going to be fun. We're really excited about the event. And Gaylan, again, thanks for coming on. It's always fun. Always have a great time talking with you. And we'll have to do it again soon. Thanks,
Thank
everybody,
you, guys.
for watching.
Appreciate you.
Thanks everybody,
Gaylan.
for watching. Make sure to leave your reviews, 5-star reviews, subscribe on whatever platform you might be listening on, and we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.